Hey guys, and welcome back to Canada. Today we're going to be building in an area heavily inspired by Toronto, with some waterfront condos, a yacht club, and a marina inspired by Marina Quay West, and then a park similar to Canoe Landing in Toronto. I also built a marina in conjunction with the yacht club, but I'll be saving that footage for a marina tutorial in the near future. So with that being said, let's get right into the build. So we're going to start right here on this piece of waterfront right in front of Commonwealth Tower. And we're going to be placing a set of 3 custom PL condos right on the water, and as a result of their relative positions to one another and their fairly angular shape, they do make quite a striking foreground to the iconic tower. And now right by those condos, Victoria Avenue does curve into Bayview Boulevard, and I didn't feel like ending such an important road on a discrete intersection was a very good idea. So I instead made a roundabout that looks fantastic and adds a lot of dynamism to the inner shoreline of Elizabeth Bay. And now moving back to our condo development, I've built the condos basically on the water, and this is an homage to the classic Europeanism series by Infrastructurist, which was one of the series that really got me into the game. So I'm not really sure how realistic these condos are, but to be honest, I don't really care because they look awesome, and once again do add some more of that dynamism to the inner shore. And now for this area, I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from the area in Toronto around where Spadina and Bathurst meet the lakeshore. So I've placed some of these low-rise condos along the shoreline, and I've tried to imitate the sloped form of the condos in Toronto by using 2 and placing one down lower than the other one. Now for this elevated metro line coming into the city along Elizabeth Bay, I wanted to capture the feeling of driving into Toronto on the Gardiner Expressway, with condos towering over you and the tower up ahead dwarfing everything else. Obviously our downtown really isn't anything near the scale of Toronto, but I figured that at least for this area here I'd work towards capturing that vibe. So I've lined London Avenue with some fairly tall condos that will stretch the skyline down towards the east, and these condos will essentially make up our own version of the area just past Fort York. And at their base we'll be placing a fairly large park, and while the road itself does end to make space for the park, the tram and bike infrastructure of Toronto Street will continue through the park and connect to the train station beyond it. Now I really love this area because of the way it stretches the skyline down along Elizabeth Bay, and really does make the city look a lot larger. And I've gone with some very modern developments here as per usual, and will only really start placing older buildings in the more distant future. I'll also be using my beloved concrete pads for this park, as they do work really well with the modern aspects of the city. And the idea is that while there is some green grass between the train and tram tracks, the tram will actually be serving as the outer barrier of the park. And there will be a pedestrian bridge arcing over the bike lanes to connect to a wider path that will be where we put our tram stop with the downtown line. And the paths for the rest of the park are just a very simple network connecting to the roads and to the exits of all of the buildings that overshadow the park. I've obviously curved the networks a bit as they wind through the park, as curvy paths are one of the easiest ways to elevate your park design. The park itself will be named Malmo Park at the request of a friend of mine, and Malmo is just a city in Sweden, and I decided why not, you know? And I've continued the minimalist feel of the park with the trees, and will only be using 3 different types of trees, and I've styled them as if the young London plane trees essentially line the paths with the larger leafy trees on the intersections between different paths. And then I just put some pine trees just to fill a bit of space between the paths and the buildings, and as I said, the park design on this one is very simple, but that is what I was going for, as I'm not really a fan of very eye-catching parks that sacrifice function for form. And now as I said, across the trams here there will be no park space, So I've instead put a parking lot here. As in Toronto, when you move away from downtown, you really do start seeing a lot of surface lots for the condos and their visitors and delivery drivers and the like. Now around the surface lot, I just put some tall bushes and the same trees that I used opposite the rails, just to keep things consistent and build more of a green line at the base of the skyline of the area. And with that done, we finished off the Malmo Park area. And moving back to our waterfront condos, I just placed some paths from a new pedestrian path set right on the edge of the quays upon which the condos are built. And I do know that the way that they cut through the buildings isn't particularly realistic, but you can imagine that these paths are basically only for building residents, or just cut through the lobbies of the buildings, or just don't overthink it. And anyhow, if you have any suggestions for the name of this fairly iconic development that does sit right by the heart of the city, just hit me up in the comments with your ideas, and we'll pick one. And I also decided not to give these condos a built podium as a result of their fairly unique location, and instead chose to make a small, very manicured park at their base, using those same pedestrian paths and some manicured grass decals. Now this did prove to be a regrettable decision just because I had a lot of issues with small terrain differences, not really working well with the paths and the decals. I extended the path along this long piece of waterfront with the shorter condos, and I really do love this area because you're able to see the metro running behind the buildings from out on the water, and it really does make the area come alive. Between the buildings, I've placed some more surface lots for the residents of the condos, and I had to use decals for the parking because the actual terrain of this area is very choppy as a result of the sunken rails, the sunken buildings, networks at ground level, and of course the waterfront. So as a result of this choppy terrain, most of the grass you see in these parts is just ploppable surfaces grass. And now to fill in the empty spaces, I did just end up placing a bunch of trees. And this isn't the most usable green space, but I did do it this way just to make sure that there's a very visible tree line when the city is viewed from the bay. And now we're moving on to the yacht club portion of the video, and this big triangular building will be the Elizabeth Bay Yacht Club and Hotel. And the building itself is a sub-building from the Hotel Sailit by Sven Berlin. That is a chronically underrated asset in my opinion. Anyhow, the building is very striking and is an icon of Elizabeth Bay with its unique shape. And the breakwater you just saw me place is the outline of the marina that I built in Tampa with the yacht club, and will be the focus of the next City Skylines how-to video on this channel. And the road will come in and go down a ramp to be the same height as the parking lot and the boat launch of the yacht club, and I'll be placing quite a bit of park space on this pier just for visitors to the club and visitors to the marina or the hotel. And then opposite the road from this green space is where we'll be building the boat launch that will also feature in the how-to video. And I'm gonna have a big parking lot out here on the wider portion of the pier, and unfortunately it won't be very functional because parking lot roads are terrain conforming. And if you know any ways to get this to work and have functional parking, just please let me know because I'd really appreciate being able to populate the parking lots out on the water. And anyhow, I also thought I'd let you guys know about a new series that's in the works, where I just go in to some of my really old saves, like 2 years old, and just laugh at all the things I did wrong. And I already made the first episode of that, and we'll see which other saves we're able to get working right, because some of them just won't load, unfortunately. And anyhow, I went with these tile decals and surrounded the yacht club with them, and then over here on the outcropping by the marina, I went with a very sort of modern and developed detailing scheme wherein I used the decals to create some sail-shaped triangles of grass surrounded by the tiles. And I really do love how modern this area looks and just how good those triangles really do look. Now, I imagine that this park isn't really used as green space and is more a place designed to make the yacht club look better. So I didn't really work towards making it the most human park, and instead went with very little shade or trees, just to maintain the prominence of those wonderful triangle shapes on the ground. And I filled them in with some manicured grass just to keep working on those vibes. And I'm really pleased with the results because it completes the look of the area and gives the entire yacht club in Pierre a very refined feel. Then I just added some benches around the triangles, obviously only on the sides that face the water or the marina. And then some tables with umbrellas outside for the fine dining establishment that would probably be at the base of the yacht club and hotel building. With that being said, we're basically done with this episode, and I do hope you enjoyed it. It's definitely been one of my favorite builds in Canada, just for how much it adds to the city in terms of scale and detail. And obviously in the cinematics you'll also be seeing just how the marina and the boat launch came out. And I'll be going over the process of building those in the how-to guide that I hope to be able to put together soon when I find the time. Anyhow, thanks for watching and have a great day.